The night shift at the Ashford Art Museum was supposed to be quiet. Just footsteps echoing through empty halls, the hum of security cameras, and the faint smell of old canvas and polished wood. But on March 14th, something changed. And only one person noticed. Kate Morrison had visited the museum every Sunday for 3 years. Always alone. Always standing in front of the same painting. Gallery 7, second floor. A small oil painting called The Blue Door, not famous, not expensive, just a simple scene of a weathered door and a stone wall. Most visitors walked right past it. But Kate never did. The guards knew her by name. They'd seen her cry in front of that painting. They'd watched her place her hand on the frame, close her eyes, and whisper something they couldn't hear. Some thought she was eccentric. Others thought she was lonely. But Thomas Reed, the senior night guard, thought she was mourning, and he was right. On Sunday night, Kate didn't show up. The museum closed at 6. By 7, the halls were empty. Thomas began his rounds, checking locks, testing alarms, scanning each room with his flashlight. Everything was in place. Except in Gallery 7, the blue door was gone. Thomas froze. His heart pounded as he stared at the empty wall. A pale rectangle marked where the painting had hung for decades. The security tag was still there, the wire still attached, but the painting itself had vanished. He grabbed his radio. "Control, this is Reed. We have a theft in Gallery 7, I repeat. Theft in Gallery 7. Within minutes, the police arrived. Detectives swarmed the room, dusting for prints, reviewing camera footage, questioning staff, but the cameras showed nothing. No one had entered the gallery after closing. No alarms had been triggered. The painting had simply disappeared. If you love mysteries that pull at your heart, subscribe now, because this story is just beginning. Detective Laura Chen led the investigation. She was sharp, methodical, known for solving cases others gave up on. But this one puzzled her. "Why this painting?" she asked Thomas as they stood in the empty gallery. "It's worth maybe $5,000. We have pieces worth millions downstairs. Why steal something so ordinary?" Thomas didn't answer right away. He walked to the empty space on the wall and ran his fingers along the frame's outline in the dust. Then he saw it. Something the other officers had missed. On the wall, just below where the painting had hung, someone had scratched a message into the plaster. Tiny letters. Almost invisible unless you knew where to look. "Tell Kate I'm sorry." Thomas's blood ran cold. He called Detective Chen over. She knelt down, shining her flashlight on the words. Her expression shifted from confusion to concern. "Who's Kate?" she asked. Thomas swallowed hard. "A visitor. She came every week to see this painting. She'd stand here for hours. She loved it more than anyone." "Do you have her contact information?" "No. She never signed the guest book. Never joined as a member. She just came, looked at the painting, and left." Detective Chen stood up slowly. "Then we need to find her. Because whoever took this painting knows her, and they want her to know what they've done." Thomas nodded, but his mind was already racing. He remembered something Kate had said once, months ago, when he'd asked her why she loved the painting so much. Her eyes had filled with tears, and she'd whispered, "Because my daughter painted it." Detective Chen made a call. Within an hour, museum staff pulled every piece of information they had about Kate Morrison. But there wasn't much. No membership. No phone number. No address. Just security footage showing a woman in her late 50s, always wearing a gray coat. Always carrying the same brown leather bag. Thomas watched the footage again. He studied Kate's face, the way she moved, the careful way she approached the painting each time. There was ritual in it, reverence, and grief that seemed to weigh her down like stones. "She always came on Sundays," Thomas said quietly. "Between 2 and 4 in the afternoon, never missed a week." Detective Chen made notes. "Did she ever speak to anyone? Meet someone here?" "No, she was always alone." "And you said her daughter painted it?" Thomas nodded. "That's what she told me once. I didn't ask more. Seemed too personal." Detective Chen closed her notebook. "Then let's find out who painted the blue door. That's our connection. The museum's archives revealed the answer quickly. The painting had been donated in 2019 by an art school in Portland. It was part of a student exhibition. The artist's name was listed as Emma Morrison, age 23 at the time of donation. Cause of donation, estate sale. Thomas felt his stomach drop. Estate sale meant the artist was dead. Detective Chen pulled up Emma Morrison's records. What she found made the case suddenly personal. Emma had died in a car accident in January 2019, just 2 months before her work was donated to the museum. She'd been driving home from an exhibition. Her mother, Kate Morrison, had been in the passenger seat. Kate survived. Emma didn't. The painting was the last thing Emma had completed before she died. Thomas sat down heavily in the museum's security office. So Kate's been coming here for 3 years to see her daughter's work. The only piece of Emma she had left, Detective Chen corrected quietly. Now someone's taken it. But why? That was the question neither of them could answer. The painting wasn't valuable. It wasn't famous. Stealing it made no sense unless the thief knew what it meant to Kate. Unless the theft was personal, Detective. Chen pulled up the security footage from the days before the theft. She watched hours of tape, looking for anything unusual. Visitors came and went. Families, students, tourists. But then, on Friday afternoon, something caught her attention. A man in a black jacket stood in Gallery 7. He wasn't looking at the paintings. He was looking at the visitors. Specifically, he was watching a woman in a gray coat. Kate? She stood in front of the blue door. Her hand on the frame, tears streaming down her face. The man filmed her with his phone. Detective Chen froze the frame. She zoomed in on the man's face. Mid-40s. Dark hair. Sharp features. And something in his expression that made her uneasy. Not curiosity. Not sympathy. Something colder? Do you recognize him? She asked Thomas. Thomas leaned close to the screen. His jaw tightened. No, but I've seen that look before. That's not someone who stumbled into the museum. That's someone hunting. Detective Chen ran the man's image through facial recognition. 20 minutes later, she had a name. David Morrison. Emma's father. Kate's ex-husband. Thomas felt the pieces click together in his mind. He took the painting. Maybe, but why? Thomas thought about Kate's tears. About the message scratched into the wall. Tell Kate I'm sorry. He thought about the way grief could twist people into shapes they didn't recognize. Revenge? Thomas said quietly. He blames her for Emma's death. Detective Chen didn't disagree. She pulled David Morrison's address from the database. He lived 40 minutes outside the city, in a small house near the woods. No criminal record. No history of violence. But grief didn't always announce itself with warning signs. We need to find Kate before he does, Detective Chen said. But Thomas was already thinking one step ahead. What if he already has? Asterisk. Kate Morrison lived in a small apartment on the east side of town. The building was old, paint peeling, hallways that smelled like boiled vegetables and mildew. Detective Chen knocked on apartment for B. No answer. She knocked again, louder this time. Ms. Morrison. This is Detective Chen with the city police. I need to speak with you about the museum. Silence. Thomas stood behind Chen, his hand near his radio. Something felt wrong. The air was too still. The kind of stillness that comes before something breaks. Chen tried the door. Locked. She called for backup, and made the decision. We're going in. Ah! The building manager arrived with keys. The door swung open into darkness. Chen drew her flashlight and stepped inside. The apartment was small. 1 bedroom. A kitchen barely big enough to turn around in. Everything neat. Everything in its place. But empty Kate wasn't home. Asterisk Chen moved through the rooms carefully. In the bedroom, she found a desk covered in photographs. Emma. Dozens of pictures of a young woman with dark hair and bright eyes. Emma at graduation. Emma painting in a studio. Emma laughing in the sunlight. And in every photo, the same expression of pure, unguarded joy. Thomas picked up one of the frames. She kept her daughter alive in here. Chen nodded. But something else caught her attention. On the desk, beneath the photographs, was a letter, handwritten. Recent, the ink was still fresh. She read it aloud. Kate, I know you'll never forgive me. I don't expect you to. But you need to understand. Emma was everything. And you took her from me? You were driving that night. You were the one who suggested that route. You were the one who walked away? I can't live with that anymore. I can't watch you mourn her like you're the victim. So I'm taking back what's mine. The painting belongs to our daughter. Not to strangers in a museum. Not to you. I'm sorry it has to be this way. But you left me no choice. David. Thomas felt his chest tighten. He's not just stealing a painting. He's punishing her. Chen folded the letter carefully. And he's not done. This reads like a goodbye, she called dispatch. I need units at 447 Maple Ridge Road. Suspect is David Morrison. Possible 10 to 56. Code for suicide attempt. But Thomas was already thinking about Kate. If he left this letter here, he wanted her to find it, which means he knew she wasn't home. So where is she? Chen's phone buzzed. Museum security. A visitor had just entered the building. A woman in a gray coat. Kate Morrison. She'd gone straight to Gallery 7. Thomas and Chen exchanged a look. Then they ran. The drive back to the museum took 12 minutes. Chen broke every speed limit. When they arrived, the building was quiet. Sunday evening? Closed to the public. But the doors were unlocked. Thomas led the way upstairs. His footsteps echoed through the empty halls. His mind raced with possibilities, none of them good. Gallery 7 was dark. Just one light on. The emergency exit light glowing red in the corner. And there, standing in front of the empty wall where the blue door had hung, was Kate Morrison. She wasn't crying. She wasn't moving. She just stood there, staring at the blank space, her hand raised as if the painting were still there, as if she could still touch it. Kate, Thomas said softly. She didn't turn. He took it, you know. We're looking for him. Took the only piece of her I had left. Thomas stepped closer. Kate, we need to find David. Do you know where he might go? Finally, she turned. Her face was pale, her eyes hollow. But there was something else there too. A flicker of something Thomas couldn't quite name. Fear. Or maybe understanding. The cabin, she whispered. He took her there when she was little. Before everything fell apart, he'd take her painting in the woods. He'd tell her she was going to be famous someday. Her voice cracked. He's there. I know he is. Detective Chen was already calling for backup, but Kate grabbed her arm. Please, let me come with you. I need to see him. I need to make him understand. Chen shook her head. That's not possible. Please. Kate's voice broke. He's destroying himself over this. Over me. I need to tell him the truth. Thomas looked at Chen. He knew the answer was no. But he also knew that some conversations needed to happen. Some wounds could only be healed face to face. Chen hesitated. Then she made a decision that would change everything. You can come. But you stay in the car. Understood? Kate nodded. And they left for the woods. The cabin was an hour north. Buried in dense forests where cell service died and the roads turned to gravel. David had bought it years ago, back when the marriage was still whole. When Emma was still a child who believed her parents would love each other forever, Detective Chen drove. Thomas sat in the passenger seat, watching the trees thicken on both sides of the road. Kate was silent in the back, her hands folded in her lap, her eyes fixed on something beyond the windshield. What happened that night? Thomas asked quietly. The accident. Kate didn't answer for a long time. When she finally spoke, her voice was barely above a whisper. We'd gone to Emma's exhibition. She'd sold 3 paintings. She was so happy. She wanted to celebrate. So we drove to this little restaurant she loved, out near the coast. It was raining. The roads were slick. She paused, swallowing hard. I was driving. Emma was talking about her plans. She wanted to apply to art schools in Europe. She was laughing, and then she stopped. The silence in the car was suffocating. The truck came out of nowhere, Kate continued, crossed the center line. I swerved. I tried to miss it, but the road was too wet. We spun, hit the guardrail, and then we went over. Thomas turned in his seat to look at her. It wasn't your fault. David doesn't see it that way, Kate said. He thinks I should have taken a different route. He thinks I drove too fast. He thinks if I'd just done something different, Emma would still be alive. Her voice cracked. And maybe he's right. Maybe if I'd been more careful, she'd still be here. That's not how it works, Chen said firmly. Accidents are accidents. You can't carry that blame. But Kate shook her head. I've been carrying it every day for 3 years. Every time I looked at that painting, I saw Emma's hands holding the brush. I saw her smile when she finished it. I saw everything we lost. She looked up, meeting Thomas's eyes. David lost that too. But he lost me along with it, and I don't think he ever forgave me for surviving. The car went quiet again. They drove deeper into the woods. The sun was setting, casting long shadows through the trees. Finally, Chen slowed the car. Ahead, barely visible through the pines, was the cabin. Smoke rose from the chimney. A single light glowed in the window. David was inside. Chen parked 50 yards away. She turned to Kate. You stay here? Lock the doors. Don't get out unless I tell you to. Kate nodded, but Thomas could see the tension in her shoulders. She wanted to run to that cabin. She wanted to fix this. But some things couldn't be fixed with words. Chen and Thomas approached on foot. The ground was soft, covered in pine needles. The air smelled like wood smoke and damp earth. Chen's hand rested on her weapon. Thomas stayed close behind her. When they reached the door, Chen knocked. David Morrison, this is the police. We need to talk to you. No response. She knocked again, louder. David opened the door. Still nothing. Chen tested the handle. Unlocked. She pushed the door open slowly, her flashlight sweeping the room. The cabin was small. One main room with a kitchenette, a wood stove, and a couch covered in faded blankets. And there, hanging on the wall above the stove, was the blue door. The painting looked surreal in this place. Too bright, too full of life against the cabin's worn wood and shadows. But David wasn't there. Chen stepped inside, moving carefully. Thomas followed. They checked the back room. Empty. The bathroom. Empty. And then Thomas noticed the back door slightly ajar. He pushed it open and saw footprints in the mud leading into the trees. "You ran," Thomas said. Chen cursed under her breath. She radioed for backup, but they were too far out. It would take 20 minutes for anyone to arrive. By then, David could be anywhere in these woods. Thomas looked at the painting. Then he looked at the footprints, and he made a choice. "I'll go after him, Thomas. Wait for backup." "He's not running from us," Thomas said. "He's running from himself. If we wait, we'll find him dead." Chen knew he was right. She nodded. "Go. I'll stay here in case he circles back." Thomas moved into the trees. The forest was darkening fast, the last light bleeding out of the sky. He followed the footprints, moving quickly but carefully. Branches scratched at his face. His breath came hard, and then he heard it. A voice, faint, coming from somewhere ahead. He pushed forward and found David standing at the edge of a ravine. 50 feet down, a stream cut through the rocks. David was close to the edge. "Too close. David," Thomas called. "Step back." David didn't move. He stood with his back to Thomas, his shoulders shaking. "I can't do this anymore." "I know. But this isn't the answer. You don't know anything." David's voice was raw, broken. "You didn't lose her. You didn't lose everything." Thomas stepped closer. Kate lost her too. David spun around, his face twisted with pain. Kate killed her. She was driving. She made the choice. And she gets to keep living while Emma's gone. That's not fair, and you know it. Nothing about this is fair," David shouted. His voice echoed through the trees. Emma was supposed to have a future. She was supposed to be something. And Kate took that away. Thomas stopped walking. He was close enough now to see the tears streaming down David's face. Close enough to see the painting clutched in David's hands. "Is that why you took the painting?" Thomas asked quietly. "To hurt Kate?" David looked down at the canvas. "I took it because it's all I have left. It's the only piece of Emma that's still real." "Then don't destroy it by doing this." David's hands tightened on the frame. For a moment, Thomas thought he might throw the painting into the ravine. But instead, David sank to his knees, clutching the painting to his chest, and he broke. Thomas moved slowly, carefully, like he was approaching a wounded animal. David didn't look up. He just knelt there in the dirt, holding the painting, sobbing into the canvas. "She painted this the week before she died," David said through his tears. "She told me it was about new beginnings, about doors we're afraid to open. She said sometimes the scariest thing is just stepping through." He laughed bitterly. "She was 23 years old, and she understood life better than I ever did." Thomas knelt beside him. "She'd want you to step through, David, not stand at the edge." "How do you know what she'd want?" "Because I watched her mother visit that painting every Sunday for 3 years. I saw the way Kate looked at it, like it was keeping her alive, like it was the only thing stopping her from giving up." Thomas paused. "Emma's painting didn't just matter to you. It mattered to Kate, too. Maybe it was the only thing you both still had in common." David's shoulders shook. "I blamed her. For 3 years, I blamed her for everything. I couldn't look at her without seeing Emma dying. I couldn't hear her voice without hearing the sound of the crash. And now?" David wiped his face with the back of his hand. "Now I'm standing here holding our daughter's painting, realizing that blaming Kate didn't bring Emma back. It just destroyed what was left of us." Thomas heard footsteps behind him. He turned to see Kate stepping out of the trees. Detective Chen was right behind her, looking furious that Kate had followed. But Kate wasn't looking at Chen. She was looking at David. "I'm sorry," Kate said quietly. David looked up. His face went pale. "Kate!" "I'm sorry I couldn't save her," Kate continued. Her voice trembled but didn't break. "I'm sorry I suggested that restaurant. I'm sorry I drove that night. I'm sorry the truck crossed the line. I'm sorry the road was wet. I'm sorry for every single decision that led to that moment." She took a shaky breath. "But I'm not sorry I survived. Because someone needed to remember her. Someone needed to love her. And if you'd been in that car instead of me, I'd want you to survive too." David stared at her. Tears streamed down his face. "I don't know how to stop being angry." "Neither do I," Kate said. "But I'm tired of being angry alone." She walked forward and sat down beside him in the dirt. For a long moment, neither of them spoke. They just sat there, looking at the painting between them. The blue door. The last thing their daughter had created. "Do you remember when she painted this?" Kate asked softly. David nodded. "She was in her studio. She'd been working on it for weeks. She kept saying the door wasn't right. The color was wrong. She showed it to me the day before the exhibition," Kate said. "She told me she finally got it. She said the door wasn't supposed to be perfect. It was supposed to be worn, used, because that's what made it beautiful." David looked at the painting more closely. Kate was right. The door in the painting was weathered, the paint peeling, the wood scarred, but somehow it glowed. It was the focal point of the entire piece. The thing that drew your eye and held it. "She was painting about us," David said quietly. "About our marriage. About how broken things can still be beautiful." Kate nodded. "I think she was trying to tell us something. That it's okay to be damaged. That we don't have to be perfect to matter." David closed his eyes. "I stole this painting to hurt you, but all I did was hurt myself." "We've both been hurting ourselves," Kate said. "For 3 years. And Emma wouldn't have wanted that." Thomas and Detective Chen stood back, giving them space. This moment wasn't about the law. It wasn't about theft or blame. It was about two people trying to find their way back from the worst thing that had ever happened to them. Finally, David stood. He held the painting carefully, like it might shatter if he moved too fast. I need to return this. I need to make this right. Kate stood beside him. We'll return it together. Detective Chen stepped forward. Mr. Morrison, I have to take you in. You understand that? David nodded. I understand. But given the circumstances, Chen continued, I'll recommend counseling instead of charges. If the museum agrees, Thomas spoke up. They will. I'll make sure of it. They walked back through the woods together. The four of them. The painting held carefully between David and Kate. When they reached the cabin, Chen called for backup. They'd wait for transport here. Inside the cabin, David wrapped the painting carefully in blankets. I should have just talked to you, he said to Kate. Instead of doing this, you should have talked to each other a long time ago, Kate replied. David looked at her. Really looked at her. For the first time in 3 years, can we start over? I don't think we can start over, Kate said honestly. But maybe we can start again. As different people? David nodded slowly. I'd like that. Thomas watched them. He thought about grief, about how it could split people apart or bring them together, how it could destroy or transform. These two had almost let it destroy them. But standing here, holding their daughter's painting, they were choosing transformation instead. The backup arrived 30 minutes later. But before David was taken away, he did something Thomas would never forget. He walked to Kate, the painting in his hands, and he held it out to her. This should be yours. Emma would want you to have it. Kate shook her head. It should be where everyone can see it. In the museum, that's what Emma wanted. To share her art with the world. Then we'll visit it together, David said. Every Sunday. Kate smiled through her tears. Every Sunday. 2 weeks later, the blue door was back on the wall of Gallery 7. The museum decided not to press charges. David Morrison was ordered to complete 200 hours of community service and attend grief counseling. Kate Morrison started attending the same sessions. Thomas returned to his night shifts. But Sunday afternoons were different now, because at 2 o'clock, like clockwork, Kate and David walked into the museum together. They stood in front of Emma's painting. Sometimes they talked. Sometimes they were silent. But they were together. Detective Chen closed the case. But she kept a photo from it on her desk. The blue door. A reminder that sometimes the mysteries that matter most aren't the ones we solve with evidence and logic. They're the ones we solve with compassion. 3 months after the theft, Thomas found Kate and David in Gallery 7. It was Sunday. Raining outside, the museum was quiet. Can I ask you something? Thomas said. They turned. Kate smiled. Of course. What did Emma say when she finished this painting? The last thing she said about it? Kate and David exchanged a glance. Then Kate answered. She said this is about second chances. About opening doors we thought were closed forever. Thomas looked at the painting. At the weathered blue door? At the light coming from behind it, spilling out onto the stone steps. He'd looked at this painting hundreds of times during his rounds, but he'd never really seen it until now. She was wise, Thomas said. She was, David agreed. And she's still teaching us. Even now, they stood there together. 3 people who'd been brought together by loss and a stolen painting. 3 people who'd learned that grief doesn't have to be the end of the story. Sometimes it's just the beginning of a different one. As Thomas walked away, he heard Kate say something too. David, something quiet, personal. But the acoustics of the gallery carried it across the room. I forgive you, she said. And David replied, I forgive you too. Thomas smiled. He continued his rounds, checking locks, testing alarms, but he felt lighter somehow, like he'd witnessed something rare, something real. Because that's what the blue door had always been about. Not the painting itself, but what it represented. Second chances, forgiveness, the courage to walk through doors that terrify us, the choice to step into new beginnings even when we're not sure we're ready. Emma Morrison had understood that. And through her art, she'd given her parents the gift of understanding it too. 6 months later, the museum held a special exhibition. Emma Morrison, A Life in Color. It featured 20 of Emma's paintings, borrowed from private collections and art schools. David and Kate donated several pieces from their own home. They stood at the opening together, greeting visitors, telling Emma's story. Thomas attended the opening. He watched people move through the gallery, stopping at each painting, reading Emma's artist statements, seeing the world through her eyes. And he realized something profound. Art doesn't die when the artist does. It lives on. It speaks. It heals. The blue door became the centerpiece of the exhibition. People came from across the country to see it. Not because it was technically masterful, not because it was worth a fortune, but because of the story behind it. The story of loss and blame and forgiveness. The story of two people who almost destroyed each other, but chose redemption instead. A reporter asked Kate what she wanted people to take away from Emma's work. Kate thought for a long moment. Then she said, "I want them to know that broken things can still be whole, that scarred things can still be beautiful, that even when we lose something precious, we don't have to lose ourselves." The reporter wrote it down. The quote appeared in newspapers and magazines. People shared it online. And slowly, Emma Morrison's name became known. Not famous, but known. Remembered. David and Kate never remarried. But they rebuilt something. A friendship. A partnership in grief. A shared commitment to keeping Emma's memory alive. Every Sunday, they visited the museum. They stood in front of the blue door, and they remembered. Thomas retired from the museum 5 years later. On his last night, he made one final round through Gallery 7. The blue door hung in its place, illuminated by a single spotlight. Thomas stood in front of it and thought about all the nights he'd walked past it. All the times he'd seen Kate standing here. All the emotion held in this one small painting. "Thank you, Emma," he whispered, "for teaching us how to open doors," turned off his flashlight and walked away. Behind him, the painting glowed softly in the darkness. A blue door, weathered and scarred, beautiful and whole. A symbol of second chances, and proof that sometimes the most important things we guard aren't made of paint and canvas. They're made of love and memory and the courage to forgive. The museum is still there. Gallery 7, second floor. And the blue door still hangs on the wall, waiting for visitors. Waiting for people who need to see that broken things can heal, that lost things can be found, that even in our darkest moments, there are doors waiting to be opened. All we have to do is step through.